You're listening to For the Fighter in You, United Fight Alliance, for the fighter in you.
A dynamic and socially conscious entrepreneur, Patrick Moher uses creativity and a passion for human connectivity to unite individuals across social and corporate spectrums, evolving from a successful career in photography to founder of Ethical Image and Goodwood Accessories to partner at AdCan. Patrick's focus is helping companies achieve financial success within an ethical and sustainable framework. Currently CEO at Microdose Psychedelic Insights, he's developing the organization into the industry's premier media company. Patrick Moher, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me on, Jordan. I really appreciate it.
And I should also say happy birthday, because I believe your birthday, if LinkedIn is any indication, is October 24th.
Yeah, I forgot about it until one of my employees mentioned it the other day. She's like, "What do you want for your birthday?" I was like, "Huh? Oh yeah." So
that's when you know you're busy.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go paragliding. We'll see.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I could tell from some of the research I did on you, and you're living the life. You really take it seriously that you're only given this one life, and try to get as much out of it as you can and try to give as much as you can. It's been really fun doing my intel on you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, let's no better place to start than the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what Microdose Psychedelic Insights is.
Absolutely. And sorry for the noise in the background. We're currently having a wicked rainstorm here. I'm going to pull this a little closer because it's getting pretty aggressive.
Wow. You're down in Colombia right now, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in Medellin, and here, let me show you what's happening out there. It's I just saw a shirt go flying off the balcony.
Wow.
So it's really giving her. We're gonna have probably a couple lightning strikes at some point, but hopefully you can hear me. So Microdose Psychedelic Insights is it's a platform for the psychedelic industry where, events, investor intelligence, scientific information, really, trying to build it as the authority in the psychedelic industry for, content, media, information, introductions, really whatever you need to kind of make your business a success, and, kind of be that level up for the good companies and maybe not so much for the bump and dump, not so sure about you companies.
Well, you could not be more cutting edge than even just having the word microdose in the name of your company. It is so hot right now, and it is kind of trending everywhere. Maybe if you wouldn't mind, just I know you're not a scientist, but give us a little feel for what psychedelic medicine actually is.
Sure. Yeah. No, I'll be the first to admit that when we're talking science, I'm dumb as a brick. That's why I like attending our conferences.
Welcome to my world.
But so psychedelic medicine, so psychedelics, when you say that, people oftentimes will have flashbacks to, the 60s, the Timothy Leary movement, just like kind of crazy, stupid, trippy, whatever. But, the work is being done, and it has been, done for, honestly, hundreds of years. Like, these things are not new. They're just starting to become culturally accepted again because people are talking about it. And I think that a big part of that is the internet, honestly, because, censorship of information is harder these days. So, the science is coming out, the stories are coming out, celebrities are coming out in droves. I just saw just yesterday, Trevor Noah was talking about, psychedelics. Andrew Yang is talking about psychedelics. Mark Messier just got published in Maclean's magazine. So it's coming out of the woodwork really quick and in real time. And so psychedelic medicine is really, just like, there's so many applications. It's medicine that can actually help you, with your mental health, achieve a happier, better state of consciousness. There's a couple examples, like some fun ones. DMT, you picture DMT as this super crazy hallucinogenic. It is, I've experienced it, it's wild, but there are studies being done for hemorrhagic stroke patients where DMT is actually helping regenerate, neural connections in the brain. Psilocybin and ketamine for depression, microdosing LSD for cluster headaches. I mean, there's a ton of work happening at MDMA for PTSD. I mean, we kind of, in this psychedelic industry that we're talking about now, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. And, you know, I like to often pay homage to Rick Doblin, because he started doing this work 32 years ago when he said, oh, I have an idea. I'm going to get this through the FDA, you know, because MDMA can be incredibly helpful for veterans with PTSD. And how can you say no to that? That's a bipartisan issue. So absolutely genius. And you know, we're standing on the shoulders of giants here and really just doing our best to accelerate the movement and make sure it's done sustainably and responsibly, so that, you know, people can benefit from these medicines, but also understand that they're not a panacea. They're not you don't just eat the drugs and you're fixed, you know, or the medicine and you're fixed. You have to do the work. And so they really just assist in, you know, helping you kind of get outside of yourself, get out of those mental, you know, narratives, the stories that you tell yourself. Because you know, physical health, I think is probably, I'm no scientist, but I would say it's pretty close to 96 to 98% linked to mental health. So if you can fix your brain, you can fix your body, and vice versa.
Well said. Let's talk about those statistics a little bit. I think this might be instructive to help us just get, no pun intended, get our brain around just how bad things have gotten in the mental health space. So Johns Hopkins, obviously, you know, very, very prestigious, estimates 26% of Americans ages 18 and older, about 1 in 4 adults, suffers from a diagnosable mental disorder in a given year. Many of these people suffer from more than one mental disorder at a given time, in particular depressive illnesses, which tend to occur with substance abuse and anxiety disorders. Approximately 18% of people 18 to 54 have an anxiety disorder in a given year. Anxiety disorders including panic, obsessive compulsive, post-traumatic stress disorder, which you were talking about earlier, you know, with military veterans, first responders, generalized anxiety and phobias, social phobias, agoraphobia, specific phobias. And the CDC informs us that more than 50% of people will be diagnosed with a mental illness or disorder at some point in their lifetime. So it's all hands on deck. And that's why I think that, you know, it's just, I mean, it's shocking how fast microdosing and psychedelics are exploding, going across mainstream.
Well, I mean, to me, it's not. You look at what happened in the last 2 years. You know, COVID really turned the world upside down and changed things for a lot of people, and made it very apparent that maybe the way that we're doing things isn't the right way to do things, and maybe there can be change. So I don't think it's a coincidence that the psychedelic industry has really started to explode and go mainstream in the past 2 years, because, you know, that COVID is going to exacerbate this mental health epidemic, and it's a sign of the times. You know, like, we're living in a day and age and a culture where it's more go, do. Like, everyone has access to everything now, and comparison is the root of all unhappiness generally. So when you're able to see the best of the best, you know, always bright, happy, flashy, good, great, and you're sitting here like, my life maybe isn't so great, like, maybe that's part of the, you know, symptom. And I think there's a lot more than just the science happening here. I think it's kind of a cultural phenomenon to accept that maybe just say no isn't the way to go, because you're saying yes to a lot worse, you know, intoxicants, stuff like coffee's okay, sugar's okay, dairy's okay. Why is that okay? And eating a tab of acid on a Saturday isn't, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I guess given those terrifying statistics that I mentioned, it isn't shocking that it's exploding, because when you're terrified, you are willing to take chances. And
you'll do anything to get help.
You'll do anything. And what's wacky to me is that these medicines are still Schedule 4. And I guess that's a great opportunity to ask you, what do you think is going to be the status of these medicines in the next couple of years? Are they going to get knocked down from 4 to a less prohibitive rating?
So, you know, I again, not a scientist. I don't know exactly where each substance is in terms of classification, but in terms of where it's going, like, there's a couple different routes. There's the recreational route, which, currently exists. There's the decriminalization route, which is, being worked on places like Oregon, massive announcements recently. And then there's the medical route. And, I'm not an absolutist. I think that absolutism is, a big problem in the world these days. I'm right, you're wrong. It doesn't have to be that way. I think there's multiple routes, and, some people are more happy in a clinical setting. Some people are more happy just eating 5 grams of mushrooms and walking through a forest, and that's okay with me. But in terms of like how these are progressing in this day and age, you look at MDMA, it's currently on track to be accepted as a medicine in late 2023 due to the work that MAPS has been doing for 32 years. You're going to be able to go to the doctor, eat some MDMA, get some, hands-on therapy, and really, be able to get that help in a legal capacity, and it doesn't have to be underground anymore. I mean, if you look at the Netherlands, psychedelics, I had my first psychedelic experience in 2012 after the Olympics in Amsterdam, and that really kind of opened my eyes to like, holy shit, these are real. Ketamine, there's ketamine clinics all over the United States right now. There's multiple phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials happening. That big phase 3 clinical trial is what everyone's kind of on the lookout for. And I think there's a couple companies that are getting close. So, I don't want to make a prediction because I'm wrong a lot, but I think the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see some massive policy changes, and you're going to see a whole lot more cultural and social acceptance around these medications because, like what changes people's minds? People have their own belief system and their own way of thinking, and, I'm right. And some information may change that bias, but storytelling is what changes. Like you hear a story about somebody that was clinically depressed for 20 years, they were on this and that and nothing worked, and then they had a mushroom trip or something else, and just like boom. Like, how can you refute that? How can you tell somebody that a medicine that helped them live a happier, more productive, sustainable life is not okay to take? I don't think no is going to be an answer in 5 to 10 years.
In this technological world, a lot of us understand the concept of a reboot, like when your computer's slowing down, everything's fragmented, and you need to do a defrag. And, you can really conceptualize what happens when you reboot your machine, whether it's a Mac or a PC. You're cleaning it up. And I love the analogy of, tripping with a psychedelic is like the those old snow globes that have all, you shake them up and they come down all fresh, new snow. It's like a new machine. You've rebooted your system. Everything's clean and running well again. That conceptualization is much like the stories you're saying, like storytelling. When I hear those types of stories, I'm like, okay, I'm on it. That's all I need to hear, is that it really, really helps somebody. And then that couple that with the rebooting your machine concept. And it's like, you can see now why psychedelic medicine is exploding. It's unstoppable now.
I think so. I mean, there is a concern that this doesn't get done right, and maybe we have another, 60s movement. But I think if another Ronald Reagan came into town today and tried another Just Say No, he would be laughed out of everything. Like, who are you? Who are you to tell me what I can put in my body? Like I'm a big proponent of, autonomy and cognitive liberty. If you're, so long as you're not doing something that has a negative impact on somebody else's life, do whatever you want. I don't care,
And I think that goes across the aisle. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think that concept that you're mentioning, sort of cognitive liberty and who are you to tell me what I can or can't do with my body, I believe that concept travels across the aisle. So, like you said, we have a country and actually a world now of extremes. You see everyone kind of polarizing to the right and left. But if you bring up the subject of no big government can't tell me what to do or not do with my own body, I think that resonates on both sides of the aisle. So I think you've picked a winning hand.
Well, with everybody except for the people in the government.
Right. Right. And frankly, and I know this is a touchy subject, but frankly, big medicine, big pharma, big, like if you and I fix ourselves with plant medicine, which you can go out and pick in the fields, and you don't spend 4.5 weeks in a hospital, in a hospital bed for $6,000 a day, someone's losing 4 weeks of $6,000 a day market share. So there's,
but that's going to be distributed, right? Like when, it's like energy, it doesn't go anywhere. It just transmutes, right? So like and I don't know the answer to this question, but the way I like to think about it is like, what is the true impact that this movement is going to have? So, okay, so you got these people coming off of SSRIs, antidepressants, big pharma, the protocol that's costing thousands, hundreds of thousands a year, depending on the patient. What happens when you have a society of people that are fundamentally changed, happier, healthier? This quite honestly racist system of impounding people for drug possession, distribution, that kind of thing. Like, what happens when you have a lower impact and burden on the criminal justice system, a lower impact and burden on the medical health system, more productive people, happier people in society? Like, what's 20 years from now going to look like because of this? And it all kind of coincides also with the advent of artificial intelligence, robotics. Like, pretty soon there's going to be a lot of jobs that are missing because we figured out how to get the robots to do them for us. So like, what's next? I think it's going to be, this might be a bold statement, but when you have the steam engine, that was a renaissance. This might be a similar renaissance, but for cognitive ability, creativity, and overall, human happiness, really.
Absolutely. And I had a little bit of a concept of, when you look at human consciousness, the evolution of human consciousness, you look at sort of the 0.9% who've become enlightened, as the Eastern mystics have been telling us forever. If you meditate long enough and do the work, you'll beat your ego down. It's a 30 or 40 year workflow, but you will eventually become enlightened. And that's really just a way that the species doesn't destroy itself. It's just it's almost like, I feel like the species, each species either makes it or doesn't make it. And that may be one of our natural ways of making sure we don't torch each other. And hopefully that goes into hyperdrive. Hopefully, I don't know if you're familiar with Ken Keyes, the 100th monkey, where we hit that tipping point, like a certain amount of the population gets to X, then everybody follows it. You just pull them along. They just come naturally. It unfolds like effortlessly.
Because the other guy's doing it, so it's okay.
Right. When the right people are doing it, like those celebrities who you mentioned earlier, and Will Smith, who just came across your ticker tape on your, Will Smith is out now too.
Our Oscar trip changed his
Yeah.
life.
It just keeps unfolding. So I think, we should talk about, there's so many ailments that this has been actually looking like it's showing efficacy with. The science is getting very compelling. You mind going through maybe 5 or 6 of the, sort of common ailments that we all have a very high probability of suffering if we don't start being proactive right now mentally? There's so many, different things, that insults to the brain, that, this is like an anti-inflammatory, right? This is putting out the fire. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what are some of the ailments that can be helped with psychedelic medicine?
How does your brain work? It's a good question, right? Like, so depression, right? Mm-hmm. Huge problem, and getting bigger by the day. And ketamine, psilocybin, DMT, they're all being proven to be efficacious for depression. PTSD, a massive problem with, post-war frontline responders, like the people that need the most help. MDMA is like, it's fixing that. It's the data that's coming out of MAPS with their studies is proving that it's more, and like by a lot more effective than most of the traditional medicines on the market. There was an announcement that I saw by, a company like maybe 6 months or so ago that proved that their proprietary mushroom formulation actually killed breast cancer cells. That's not psychedelic, but that's real. There's cluster headaches that are being targeted with microdoses of LSD. Let's see, did I hit 5 or 6 yet? Like
migraines.
There's migraines. Yep. Yeah. I mean, and here's the interesting part is, so I came from the cannabis industry as a background, and I think cannabis is great. I'm a big proponent of it. Obviously, like, do whatever you want. If it works, it works. But we fundamentally, I say we, not me, the scientists, the really smart guys over there, they still can't crack the endocannabinoid system. We were actually born, every single one of us, we all have an endocannabinoid system. And so CBD, THC, CBD, CBN, all these molecular, like designer cannabinoids, they're working on, a certain thing like CBN for sleep. It's proving to be really effective, but we don't understand why. So that's really interesting to me. But with psychedelic medicine, from what I understand, they're working on serotonin, dopamine, the HT2A, B, and C receptor. And those have all been studied for decades. They're pretty well understood, and we're starting to understand the brain and neurochemistry more. So these medicines actually work on, dopamine receptors, serotonin receptors, the 5 HT2A, B, and C receptors. So that, I think, is why probably the science is moving a whole lot quicker in psychedelics than cannabis. And cannabis was legalized on a recreational context. Canada came out, Justin said, we're going to do this thing. We're going to break some treaty conventions, whatever. If you're mad at us, it's fine. I don't care. But psychedelics are moving so much faster because we fundamentally understand what they're doing to the human brain and body. And so that's going to be a really interesting thing to watch over the next couple of years. I got to just grab my charger because I realized.
Yep. While you do that, I'm going to refresh everybody's memory and let everyone know that we are talking with Patrick Moher. He's the CEO of Microdose Psychedelic Insights. If you're like me and you like to check people out while you're listening to the podcast, all you need to do is just put his name in. It's the last name is spelled Moher. Put in the word microdose and you'll get a ton of stuff. You'll get over to his website. Has a big show coming up. I don't want to talk about it yet, but we will talk about it in the show. But I want to talk a little bit more about the science because it's so compelling. So for the people who are scrolling along and checking him out while we're chatting with him, we talked about some of the dangers. We talked about, how the world seems to be, unraveling. You don't know what's real, what isn't real. I hate to even use the word fake because it's just has so much negative connotation to it now. But, getting real information, getting real peace of mind, getting equanimity, this is an inside job. And this is plant medicine. I'm speaking personally now. This is plant medicine that helps you with the inside job because that's where the happiness is going to come from. There's no celebrity.
Let me ask you a question, Jordan.
Absolutely.
How has plant medicine impacted your life personally?
All right. You're actually, we're breaking news here because I've never talked about this before. So, but sure. Because I'm so grateful to you, Patrick, for everything you're doing, I guess we'll break the news. So, I'm a veteran and, I served in the U.S. Army and I was in artillery and I took some percussion. There was a lot of percussion back when I was I'll give up my age here. I was in the 70s and the 80s. We didn't even use hearing protection. It just wasn't even a thing back then. So I took a lot of percussion. I was also in martial arts and had my head batted around quite a bit. I've had probably 4 or 5 concussions between the Army, between martial arts and just stupid things like diving into pools, shallow pools. I've had, I just batted my head around quite a bit. And I noticed my equanimity was off. My memory was getting worse. And my mood was getting very agitated. I was getting more and more short with my wife, more and more short with the kids. And I started microdosing and doing it because there's so many people who I respect. If you start doing the research yourself, and start looking at the scientists and the doctors and the killers in the world, like, the ballers, who are worth $100 million, billionaires, people who their brains work really well. And I'm sick of being jealous about how well their brains work. And I want to get my brain back. So I started microdosing. I'm absolutely already noticing a huge difference. So to answer the question, it's been profound. And what's really coming up for me is a feeling of connectivity, feeling more and more connected to people and more grateful, just general gratitude that, like, I'm like, where is that coming from? There's like, Dan Abrams has a podcast called 10% Happier. He's a big Buddhist guy. I love the Buddha too. And he's on ABC, does the news. And he talks about how meditating, and I don't know if he's a plant medicine guy, but I love his saying 10% happier. Your baseline, my baseline. Am I like running around like Julie Andrews, the hills are alive with the sound of music? No, but my baseline, just my walking around, is 10% happier. Yeah. It's
compound
going up.
Gains, baby.
It's wild, dude. It's wild. It is so amazing. I haven't gone hero yet, but I have a feeling at your show coming up on the 8th and 9th, which we'll talk about in a minute, your show, I'm going to meet some people who I can go hero with. And I'm going hero means upping the dose and ego dissolution, light show.
We actually have a panel on the stage called the Heroic Dose. And that'll be, it'll be about, how do we support these frontline workers, veterans, the people dealing with the hardest amounts of trauma in society, how do we help them? Because they need help. And we owe it to them as a society. The people that are fucking out there saving our lives, fighting stupid wars for oil, like, they need our help. And it's a fundamental right that they should have our help. I got another question for you, and then I'll let you go back to being the interviewer. So you've obviously come from a pretty aggressive, hardcore background, right? Like fighting the war, like a lot of macho masculinity, I'm sure, involved in a lot of that kind of thing. Was there, if you go back to the 70s and 80s and you think about psychedelics, how did you think about them then? And then what was the switch, just recently when you started microdosing, what was that thing that made you go, maybe these are okay, maybe I should try them out?
Wow, that's such a good question, Patrick. So when I was in the military, I was pretty indoctrinated, right? So like if I thought about someone who was doing mushrooms or LSD or any other, psychedelics.
Tree huggers.
Yeah. I would have thought of them as kind of like freaks and, losers and can't be happy in and of themselves. They need, they got to cheat. I used to feel that way about people who smoke pot too. I had roommates who smoked pot and I used to give them hell, and it's funny. If I had said, back then, if I had looked forward and said I'd be doing that, I would say not a chance in the world. So yeah, it's like, and so the impetus was, I do a lot of biohacking, listening to all, the great podcasts, trying to have my brain. That's the irony. My brain is going to save my brain. It's my brain that's saving my brain. It's like a race. My brain has to figure out what it needs to do to save itself. So I'm listening to all the great podcasts, and 3 or 4 of them had people who were talking about microdosing. And really, that's all it took for me. Like, I am not going to waste a minute. Like, to me, I think it's important that people know, I speak for myself. It's important that I know that this is a race. Like, I could get to the point where I get so dull that I couldn't figure out how to do this. So for me, it's a race to get smart again. I watched some of my old shows that I used to do, when I was doing a lot more sports, and I'm like, oh my God, is that me? Because it was so much better, than I am now. And it's sad, like, it's like, I listen to some of these podcasters and I'm jealous. I'm jealous. Sam Harris, I'm jealous of his brain. I'm jealous of of how articulate he is. And I want to get back to that. Not that I ever was at that level, but I would like to at least, be able to put together half a decent sentence now and, now and again.
I mean, this is one of the things is maybe it's not all about the science. Maybe it's what's inside. And psychedelics help set your ego aside. It's like, you shouldn't be looking at these other guys saying, I want to be that. You should be looking at you yesterday saying, I want to be better than I was the day before. And I think that's one of the things that psychedelics really helps people with, is just not looking at other people like they should be them. It's like, who am I? Because the ego is so confused these days.
Right. And that's why there's a concept in Buddhism that I love, the bodhicitta. And the bodhicitta, the one of the affirmations, may all beings be at peace, may all beings be happy, and that's all beings, that's your cat, that's the duck that's in the pond, that's all living creatures, and to include everybody in the love blessing. And I remember that, when I'm mindful, I remember I'm listening to Sam Harris and I'll have that, oh, he's so lucky. And then I'll wait a minute. God bless him. I'm so good for him, man. I'm glad he's happy.
Right.
The tent is big,
and then how much better do you feel? Like, there's a Buddhist saying that 1,000 candles can be lit by a single flame and it does not decrease the lifespan of that candle. Right. So, and that's another thing that I think is probably something that we should fix in our society these days, is like, why are you giving all your attention, focus, social media to what? Like, I get it, you have to call people out for bad things, but it's like, if you're just spending your whole life looking at other people, thinking about how they're doing it the wrong way, guess what? You're not going to get anything done. Be the change you wish to see. Do that shit,
Yes, it's about action. And like the Dalai Lama said, he said, I'm in the religion of kindness. That's it. It's very simple. He's in the religion of kindness. And that's, coming back. That's the other thing about plant medicine. One of the things is that people almost universally come back with is their empathy and their compassion for mankind and for the planet, like, go through the roof, and you just start loving again, and you start caring again. I'm more and more not seeing anyone as an other. Like, there's not an other. Like,
we're in this together. We're all little specks of stardust on this planet flying around amongst 100 billion other planets. Anyone that thinks they actually know what's going on there is way confused and has a massive ego. We're stuck on this thing together, and maybe we shouldn't destroy the planet. Maybe we should help other people be happy and accept themselves and accept them for who they are. Because guess what? They're not you.
Right. And in a way, we are all each other, right? Because if we do torch it, we all go down together. So, I don't know if you saw, this is a little bit of an aside, but it's actually very appropriate to what we're talking about. Did you see what William Shatner shared with Jeff Bezos when he got back from his trip up into space?
I'll be perfectly honest, I did not. I
know you're busy doing the show, but you need to run and go watch it. For anyone who's listening to this, go check it out. It was profound. He started weeping while he was talking to Jeff Bezos, and he said he could see how hurt the planet is, and he could see what the pain that the planet was in, and how close we are to not being able to turn around. Like, he downloaded a bunch of information during this trip. Yeah. And when you watch the video from inside the capsule, when they're up in space, everybody else is just goofing around and they're, enjoying the weightlessness, and they're just kind of clowning around. He's looking out the window back down at planet Earth. And then he looks at his other astronauts, and he's like pointing at the planet, and then he's looking back at the astronauts, and he looks back. You could tell he was having this revelation. And so anyway, it's really pretty, because
it's almost a metaphor for psychedelics if you think about it, because when, I'll suggest that DMT is a good one for this, because it completely takes you out of you. You go to another planet, you're up here and you're looking down going, so it's similar comparison maybe.
See, to me, this is very compelling. Now, for the scientists out there, and for the people who were like I was in the military back in the day, And, that part of my brain, the right part of my brain I was running out of the left part most of the time. For the people who are running out of their left brain, God bless them. There's no right or wrong. I'm just saying that's where they are. The science of this is very compelling. What happens when a person, what are the mechanisms when a person actually trips?
You know what? I will introduce you to one of the psychedelic scientists that are leading on this charge if you'd like, and you can ask them questions and get a way better answer.
Awesome. Hey, and along those lines, because I know your time right now is amazingly stretched. And the reason why is because you have a huge show coming up in Miami on November 8th and November 9th called Wonderland. It's going to be at the Adrian Arsht Center for the Performing Arts in Miami. And it's being billed as the largest psychedelic medicine conference ever. This will include science. This will include networking, investment opportunities, psychedelic intel, just an amazing, and the celebrities who are going to be there are off the chain. This is November 8th and 9th. We'll talk about that. But right now, where can people go if they're already like, I want to know more about this, or I want to start fixing my brain and my happiness? Where can they go right now to get a ticket to Wonderland?
So I'm pretty sure we'll show up first if you Google Wonderland Miami. It's all on microdose.buzz.buzz. It's a fun little domain. Actually, what we can do is I can set you up later with a link to share with your audience and a discount code so that they can, have it a little bit more accessible. We can do that post show and, give you a direct link. But yeah, Wonderland Miami by Microdose. You can find it online. If you're involved in the industry, you've probably seen it on your Twitter feed or LinkedIn feed in the past couple of weeks. We'll be doing some pretty aggressive marketing campaigns to make sure that we get that Arsht Center full, because it is a big venue. We're just about halfway there, and ticket curves on events are always pretty last minute. So I think we're going to fill it. And yeah, it'll be a really cool experience. I mean, we're trying to build this as not your everyday standard trade show. It's not going to be boring, stuffy. There aren't going to be hundreds of booths and people trying to sell you stuff and that kind of thing, because most of the stuff that we're talking about here, not for sale. So I guess just to give you like a little bit of an overlay of what Wonderland is, on the first day, on the 7th, the Sunday night, we're gonna have a VIP reception. That'll be held in a private area in Miami for all VIP ticket holders and our speakers and sponsors. Day number 2 is the 8th, so that's the official start of the conference. We'll have our keynote with Daniel Carcillo, Mike Tyson. We're gonna have some heavy hitter scientists on stage. We've got Robin Carhart Harris, who's highly respected in the space. We've got Matthew Johnson, who's had some incredible announcements recently. Rick Doblin, who obviously I mentioned before. I'll be doing a fireside chat with Rick, so I'm super pumped about that. Monday night, sorry?
He's the Grand Poobah in the space, right? Hasn't he been doing this for like 30 or 40 years?
32 years. Incredible. Longer than I've been alive. So, again, standing on the shoulders.
I have socks older than you.
Yeah, probably. Hopefully he doesn't wear those to Wonderland. And then on Monday night, we're going to have an industry awards. So it's called the Microdose Awards. They were completely user generated. There's no corporate influence on it. So our audience submitted all of the applications. We put together the top 5 in each category, and then all of the awards will be handed out based on voters' choice. We have no influence over it. The numbers and the votes do the talking. So you can Google the Microdose Awards if you want to vote for those. Check it out. That'll be, I believe, don't quote me on it, it'll be on the website from 8 to 10 p.m. in the Arsht Center. And then on Tuesday, we'll get into another full day of programming. Tuesday night, we're going to have some pretty sweet after parties, because everyone knows the real business is done when you make a personal connection. It's not, sitting there trying to sell somebody on the show floor. And even the show floor, I mean, we're not trying to have this be boring. So we've got art exhibits, we've got a psychedelic portrait booth, we've got interactive, sort of breakout rooms with, information sessions. We've got some breathwork sessions. We've got a business lounge, a VIP lounge. Hopefully more to come. I mean, we're how many days away? Like 16. But things are coming out of the woodwork, and hopefully we have some extra special surprises and announcements. We're going to be launching a magazine called Psychedelia at the event. We'll be launching an industry report. Hopefully we'll be finishing our documentary by then and producing it then. That's called The World on Drugs. That's what I'm pretty excited about. And we've got a couple other announcements hiding right up here.
And if my math is right, Patrick, I counted over 100 speakers who will be at the event, who people can meet with and listen to and just get all the intel. I mean, if this is something that you've been thinking about, if you have someone who's suffering, if you have someone in your family who's a first responder, this would be really important for them to get to, especially if they're, in the decision-making space in as a first responder, whether it's law enforcement or fire and rescue, or of course, military, just absolutely critical to be at this conference and to make the connections with the scientists. When you go and look at who's speaking at this conference, the scientists are so heavy. Like this is not, Patrick and I are talking about, more the, to a large degree, we're talking about the fun aspect of it, but the science is so compelling. So if you are a left brain person and you need that peer reviewed, double blind type of proof, which, God bless you. And I think you're actually right to want that. If that's the type of thing that moves you, it's there. These are PhDs, these are MDs, prestigious universities, prestigious medical institutions, all the celebrities, the fun stuff too. Like for me, I'm going to love getting the science, but I can't wait to meet Mike Tyson.
Yeah. Lamar Odom's going to be there.
Lamar Odom from the Lakers.
A couple of our keynotes are going to be dropping bombs on stage. So it's something you're not going to want to miss. And now I would be remiss if I didn't mention, we do have a top line capacity of 2,400 in the venue. Hopefully we do a bigger one later, but we do have virtual access for people that, may not have the means to make it out to the event in person. I know, obviously in COVID times, travel is difficult. You got to do the PCR test, that kind of thing. So we do have virtual ticket options available. And I believe closer to the event, to make sure that this this information is accessible to everyone, we're going to heavily discount those virtual tickets and make sure that anyone that wants to access this information can. And we've also done scholarships. We're doing student discounts. We've, provided honorarium booths and sponsorship opportunities to different companies. Therasil and the Fireside Hotline are doing fantastic work to, just generally support humans and humanity. So we've given them complimentary sponsorships. Just, we're trying to be in this for the right reasons and making sure that this story is told in the right way. Because, like you mentioned, what was it that made you change your mind? It was hearing these people's stories.
The science, for some people, it's the science that we were talking about earlier. Like you said, the peer reviewed, double blind. Give me the math. Give me the math. That's for some people, right? Yeah, for me, I like to cry. Who rocked my world was Daniel Carcillo, who played, I believe, for the Blackhawks and for the Flyers. Yeah, he was an enforcer. Yep. The dude was an enforcer, right? So these guys they're the monsters of the NHL, right? They get, in a career, they'll fight 100, 150, 200 times. Concussion city. And this guy was heading towards Alzheimer's, right? When you listen to his story, he was well on his way to dementia, on his way. I mean, and now to listen to him, he sounds like freaking Einstein. Like his articulation is off the chart. Like that's a reboot.
If you think about it, and I know this is, controversial in some capacity to some people, but, the guys like Mike Tyson, Daniel Carcillo, where they have this persona, big, bad, mean, scary. If you can look at somebody like that, have their life fundamentally changed by psychedelic medicine, like that to me is incredible. And that's a story worth sharing. And I don't generally believe in censoring people, like second chances. I believe in second chances. And I think psychedelic medicine is going to provide a lot of second chances for a lot of people that need it. So I'm happy to share these stories as best we can.
You listen to Mike Tyson or you listen to Daniel Carcillo, and the wisdom. I'm listening to these guys. I'm like, they're like sages, and look, they'll be the first to tell you, hey, the ego's always there. and I could screw up tomorrow. They're not, neither one of them are trying to be on some kind of, pillow, some kind of raised pillow and, be some sort of guru or swami. They'll be the first to tell you, no, thank you. But when you listen to them, like they're getting wisdom, like they're downloading something.
One of my favorite quotes ever, I got a lot of them. I live based on quotes, but wisdom comes from experience and experience comes from mistakes.
Yeah. I'll do one too.
Nice.
Even though my brain is rusty, I have this one down. Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's one of my boys. Life is too short to waste in cynic peep, critic bark, quarrel, or reprimand. 'Twill soon be dark. Up, mind thine own aim, and Godspeed the mark.
One more, because I love
absolutely, brother.
And it's a Shakespeare one, and I'm not a huge Shakespeare fan or anything, but it's profound. 'Tis neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so.
Patrick, the connection, like that's the speed of, if you've watched the latest there was a really, really good movie on the speed of light and if beings are getting here, how are they getting here so fast? It's the speed of thought. You watch how quickly you and I can connect and build something. Like, I want to thank you for everything you built, because it's going to propel me forward, and everybody that I share this with, it's going to, it's incalculable.
I mean, this is how it should work. And just for everyone's reference, like, we've never met face to face before this. Like, we DM'd on LinkedIn. It's like, what's up? You want an interview? Hell yeah.
Instantly. Before we even got online, before we even started recording, we were like, we'd known each other for 100 years, just effortless, right in. And it was so beautiful. And I look at the other companies you founded, like Ethical Image, Goodwood Accessories. There is a consciousness and like a principled ethos that runs through them. Like with Goodwood, you planted over 5,000 trees. No one's making you do that. No governmental entity is saying you have to plant 5,000 trees. No regulatory bodies making you do that. Something has come from inside you that you're like, you feel a part of the planet. Like, well, people who feel...
and that, that was probably like, that's when I quit my job. And honestly, I did a mushroom trip in High Park in Toronto, and I went into it it was one of the only really intentional psychedelic experiences I've had. And I was just, I was sitting there kind of questioning, how do I want to live my life? Like, what is important to me? And quite honestly, I was a little bit, just sort of in my head and depressed and sad about the way the world is going, and, global warming and the environmental crisis. And I kind of had a look at the way I was living, and I was like, well, I'm not doing anything about it. And so that what I said before about, like, don't focus on the other people's bad, do your good. I just kind of made a decision. I was like, I'm not rich. I've never been well off, but everything that you do in this world has an impact, whether it's good or bad. We are transmissions of energy. So I just made a decision to be like, you know what, like, if I can give back 1 to 5% every single day while I'm living, there may be a compound effect of that moving forward. So, in 20 years, I'll go to sub-Saharan Africa and I'll walk through my forest and just be like, shit, like that's real. And I feel like a lot of people, I experienced this, I'll talk personally, I felt like I didn't have a route to impact or change because I wasn't rich, famous, influential, nobody would listen to me, that kind of thing. But guess what? Like, people look at your actions, not your thoughts. You're the only one that can hear your thoughts, but showing up is the most important part. So I don't know. I made a conscious choice that day, and I hope to continue, doing work that benefits everybody else, because we're in this together.
Absolutely. And we can turn it around. And ironically, mushrooms will be a large part of that, not just in all the ways we've already mentioned, but the root system of mushrooms.
Mycelium network.
Yeah, the mycelium network.
About that one.
Sequestering carbon and holding down the dirt so you don't get the flooding, getting the soil back.
They can replace plastic.
It's shocking. I'm sure you've watched Paul Stamets' a thing on fungi, and also Woody Harrelson has a great movie called Kiss the Ground, all about the sequestering carbon, turning it around through the root system. In the taking action is what takes away the depression. In the action is what takes away the feeling of helplessness. It's very easy to look out there. Yeah, really easy to look out there and just say it's over, it's too late, and it's not.
In the wise words of Shia LaBeouf, just do it.
I hated Nike sequestering that, saying until they really stood up for African Americans recently, and then I said, okay, they can have Just Do It now. They really put their money where their mouth was. So I'm all good with Nike stealing that now. Well, it's Microdose 7, 8, and 9, and Patrick is so busy right now with over 100 plus speakers. I am being absolutely selfish, keeping him all to myself right now. So one more time, if people, left brainers and right brainers come, all the scientists come, and all the people who just want to let their freak flag fly, you come to and learn about this medicine in Miami. It'll be a game changer for you. I feel very confident when you look at the people's lives who this have changed so profoundly. I'm very confident this will be a game changer for you and your family as well. That's November 7th, 8th, and 9th. Microdose, any final thoughts to my man?
Let's get weird.
Let's have fun, man. Celebrities, doctors, scientists.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I also just want to take a second to shout out my team, because there is no fucking way that I, could do any of this without the incredible people that I work with. They're, I run by the maxim of maximize your strengths and delegate your weaknesses, and don't do the things you suck at, because, guess what? Maybe you don't want to do them either. We've got an incredibly talented, hardworking team. And this wouldn't have happened without them. So most of them, actually, probably 80% of my team, I have never met in person. So I'm actually the most looking forward to Saturday when I go out to dinner with my team and break it up with them.
Wow. Yeah, I want to give special love to Christina Spienjack, who was the one who brought me into this. And she's been my point of contact with you guys. She's been absolutely amazing. So special love to her.
Much love. All right. Well, thank you so much for the interview. I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to seeing what we can make happen here.
Thank you, brother. Can't wait to see you down there. It's going to be a party. November 7th, 8th, and 9th in Miami. Don't miss it. Thanks again. Patrick Moher. Talk to you soon. I'll see you just in a couple of weeks, bro.
Absolutely.
All right, peace.
For our full schedule of fights on the NBC Sports Network, CW and ABC affiliates, visit UnitedFightAlliance.com. United Fight Alliance. United we fight.